Hi, my name's Sean Beasley, and we're continuing with our series of OTRS first steps, talking about setting up an OTRS. We've talked about resetting and renaming the password and username for the rooted localhost user. We've talked about configuring a queue and the different settings that are involved in there. We've talked about the email addresses and how they function within OTRS and how they relate to the queues. Now we want to set up our first Postmaster mail account. It's also possible to receive mail directly to OTRS via fetch mail and proc mail and then pipe this into the Postmaster script, but we're going to take the most common method today and look at the Postmaster mail accounts. So we click on the admin link in the menu bar, and when we've clicked there, we'll be logged into the admin section, and we'll go to the email settings section here and then click on the Postmaster mail accounts. We see there's no data found here. If we want to set up a new account for use, then we have to click Add Email Account, and we'll see that there's different types of email accounts available. If you only see IMAP and POP3 here, then you may be missing a module. Here you also should have available IMAP-S and POP3S. Before you start running your OTRS installation, you should always run this script, but in case you haven't, or in case you're missing options within the Postmaster mail account settings screen, then you can run the script called OTRS.checkModules. And this will show you all modules that are installed, which are required for or needed or can be used for OTRS, and whether they're installed or not. In our last video, I'm using a Gmail account to pick up our emails, and so just in case you've never used an email client when connecting to Gmail, you do have to make some preliminary settings. You have to go to your settings screen and then go to forwarding and POP and IMAP, and you must enable either POP or IMAP in order to pick it up from an external source. If you need help configuring the client, then you should click on this, or well, here for IMAP, click on this for further instructions. Going back to our OTRS mail account management section or screen, I'm going to choose IMAP-S for my connection because I have IMAP set up for my connection type. I'm going to use my username, which is my OTRS helpdesk at gmail.com. My password. The host information for this connection will be imap.gmail.com. I'm going to go ahead and just connect to the default inbox, so I'm not going to change this. You could connect to a different folder if you want to use, if this mailbox is used for other purposes and you want to just pick up the mail out of one folder. And this is very, very, very important that you understand that even though it says IMAP, it's picking up and deleting the mails. So it's not going to leave the mails on the server as you would expect an IMAP client to do. Then you can set the trusted feature. The trusted feature is something that you should use on email addresses that are only published internally or only used for internal purposes, because what you can do is you can modify things within the system when using this trusted email address. So any type of OTRS headers that you want to embed in these emails that are received by this email address will automatically be processed by the server. If you do not have this address set to trusted, then you will not be able to use the OTRS headers. They'll be filtered out and ignored by OTRS in and of itself. So if you're trying to set up a email from a monitoring system or whatever, and it's not working, then you need to come back here, because this is going to be the problem, that it's not set to trusted and that the OTRS headers are being filtered and ignored from OTRS itself. And we get back to the dispatching portion of this email address. The dispatching portion is the portion that we talked about when we actually created the email address. There's a section that says queue. If you dispatched the to field from this email address, then it's going to look in the list of email system addresses that you have, and that's one of the reasons you need this system address. We talked about it having a different function once you set it up within OTRS. Then it will look in the settings for this email address, this system address, and will automatically put this in the correct queue. If you, well, I guess I should say this is generally used for email boxes where multiple aliases are used, where multiple email addresses are being sent to the same mailbox. Now if I go here to the dispatching by selected queue, then you'll see that a queue setting will appear here. And at this point, what do you think is going to happen? All the emails that come in from this email box are going to be sent to this queue per default. So it's kind of depending on your setup. It's just going to have to play with it there and decide how you need to set it up. Validity is going to come up all over an OTRS. It's going to be everywhere you turn around, you're going to see valid settings for things that can't be deleted due to database concurrency, just to make sure that everything that you've used in the past is still available when you run reports and when you go into the ticket itself. Some things are going to need to be there because if they're not, you won't be able to access data within your system. So in the setup phase, you can always go in, you can start deleting some of these things out of the database if you've never ever used them. But that's really something you just try to avoid if at all possible. Reuse these things, empty the queues out, rename them. If you don't have the email address anymore, the email account, then just set it to invalid or set it up for something else. This one's not too bad when you rename it. Some other things can have side effects if you rename them, but this one you can just reuse as much as you want to. And then a comment if you need to. Like I said in some of the other videos, this might be something very cryptic, especially if you're sending system emails to it and you don't want anybody to know that this email address is in existence. And then you would need a comment at that point. So I'm just going to put this as my main address. Great. So now I have my account set up, and I can choose to fetch my mail. This will normally be done in the background by a cron job that runs the script postmastermailbox.pl. You can also test this on the console if you want to. Even before you put the settings in the database, you can use command line switches, but we'll get into that later, as this is the basic setup. Let's see if I had any mail in this box at all. I'll go to my status view. And I didn't have any mail, so I'll go ahead and send a test mail. And I didn't have any mail, so I'll go ahead and send a test mail. So here I've got my test mail prepared, then I'm going to go ahead and send it, and then we'll pick up the mail again. Now I'm going to go back into my admin section because my mail's been sent. Go into my Postmaster mail accounts and click Fetch Mail. Now I should have a newly created mail in my system. And there he is. So that's setting up the first email address in OTRS. I hope you've enjoyed the video and keep watching my starter series. Thank you.